Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to getting well-informed on some, well, sometimes really surprising topics. And today, we are definitely diving deep into the global badminton market. Honestly, it's way more dynamic than I think most people realize.
It really is. There's some significant movement happening.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers alone are pretty impressive. Back in 2021, global sales revenue, over $4.2 billion.
That's right. And the projections show that climbing
Climbing is putting it mildly. Forecasts are past $5.1 billion by 2025, and then, get this, almost $7.5 billion by 2033.
which translates to that solid global compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of nearly 5%, 4.9% to be precise.
Okay, 4.9%. So we're definitely going to unpack these figures, go region by region, because I hear there are some real hotspots of growth that might surprise you.
Exactly. And I think what's really significant about these numbers isn't just, the total amount, but that consistent, steady global growth. It tells a story about the sport really expanding its reach. Its economic impact is growing worldwide.
So it's not just the pros we see on TV.
Not at all. It's more people playing, recreationally, more investment going into facilities, and badminton pushing beyond its traditional strongholds. It's finding new ground globally.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Because to really get the story behind those big numbers, we need to drill down a bit, right? Look at the regions, the specific countries.
Yeah, definitely. Where should we start?
How about we just, break it down region by region? You give people a feel for the overall performance, but maybe highlight the key countries.
That sounds like the best way. We can look at who's leading in revenue, but also, importantly, who's showing that really rapid growth, that high CAGR. Spot the trends, try to understand the why.
Perfect. Okay, let's kick things off with North America. How's it looking there?
North America's solid. Revenue in 2021 was just under $900 million, around $886 million.
Okay.
And it's projected to cross that $1.5 billion mark by 2033. The overall growth rate for the region is about 4.6% annually.
And the U.S., I assume, is a big part of that.
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. is the major player. It's set to hit over $1 billion, maybe $1.1 billion, by 2033 on its own, growing at about 4.2%.
Okay. What about Canada?
Canada's showing strong growth, too, actually a bit faster than the U.S. rate, nearly 5.5% annually, projected to reach over $250 million by 2033.
Faster growth in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned surprises.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting for North America, Mexico.
Mexico. Okay, tell me about that.
Well, its starting revenue in 2021 was smaller, around $81 million, but look at the projection. Over $183 million by 2033.
Okay.
And the growth rate driving that, over 6% annually, 6.04%. That's the highest CAGR in North America.
Wow, over 6% in Mexico. That is interesting. What do you think is driving that?
That kind of growth, especially that 6% plus figure, it's quite striking. It really suggests a burgeoning interest down there. It could be tied to more investment in sports infrastructure, maybe more community programs, making it accessible. Definitely a market to keep an eye on in the Americas.
Definitely. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe. What's the story there?
Europe's another significant market. Just over $800 million in 2021 revenue.
Yeah.
Projected to grow to about $1.35 billion by 2033. The regional annual growth is slightly lower than North America, around 4.45%.
And within Europe, who are the big players? Germany?
Germany leads in terms of revenue, yeah. About $200 million back in 2021, heading towards maybe $360 million. Solid growth, too, nearly 5% TAGR.
And the UK? I know badminton's quite popular there.
It is, and the UK shows strong momentum. Its growth rate is actually over 5% annually, 5.15%, projected to hit around $233 million by 2033.
Okay, so Germany for revenue, UK for strong growth. What about others? France, Spain?
France and Spain show steady growth, both around 4% CAGR. Italy's a bit lower, under 4%. Russia and Sweden, interestingly, show the slowest growth among the listed countries here, around 2.3 and 2.9% respectively.
Right, but you mentioned outliers in Europe too, like Mexico and North America.
Exactly. There's one that really jumps out, Luxembourg.
Luxembourg? Seriously, it's tiny.
I know, but look at the numbers. Revenue was under $20 million in 2021,
Okay.
but it's projected to grow to nearly $42 million by 2033. And that translates to a CAGR of, wait for it, over 7.7%.
7.7% in Luxembourg. That's the highest in Europe then.
By a significant margin, yes. Highest in Europe.
Wow. How does that happen? How does a smaller country lead the growth pack like that?
That's a great question. It really highlights how local factors can just have a huge impact. For a country that size, maybe it's really effective local badminton clubs or federations, maybe some targeted investment in facilities, or perhaps just a sudden surge in popularity, grassroots
So
stuff.
maybe one really good player inspiring people.
Could be. Whatever the reason, it's definitely an unexpected but very clear hotspot.
Fascinating. Okay, let's move to the region everyone probably thinks of first with badminton. Asia Pacific.
Ah, yes, the behemoth. And rightly so. This region is huge for badminton.
How huge are we talking?
Nearly $1.8 billion in revenue back in 2021. That's 1,776 million.
Okay, so already massive.
And projected to hit almost 3.1 billion by 2033. The regional growth rate is strong, around 4.7% annually.
And it's the biggest regional market overall.
By far, Asia Pacific leads globally in terms of revenue, and within that, well, no prizes for guessing the leader.
China.
China, absolutely. Over 700 million in 2021 revenue alone. They're projected to reach almost 1.3 billion by 2033, still growing strongly at just over 5% CAGR.
So the traditional powerhouse is still powering ahead. What about Japan?
Japan's a big player too. Significant revenue, around 240 million in 2021, projected towards 400 million. Growth is a bit slower, around 4.1%.
Okay, now I saw some numbers for India that looked really interesting.
Yes, keep an eye on India, definitely. Revenue was around 233 million in 2021,
Right.
but the projection takes it to over 447 million by 2033.
Yeah.
And the growth rate, over 5.6% annually. That's higher than China's growth rate.
5.6%. That's really strong growth for India. What does that tell us?
Well, growth like that in India often signals a few things, right? A rising middle class, maybe more disposable income, a growing interest in sports generally, both for fun and professionally. Plus, you have a huge youth population, potentially better sports infrastructure being built. It's sort of a perfect storm for sustained high growth.
Makes sense. And other parts of Asia? South Korea? Australia?
South Korea's solid, around 4% growth. Australia's a bit slower, maybe 3.5%, but look at Southeast Asia as a block.
Okay.
That group is also showing really solid growth, over 5.2% annually. So it's quite a broad surge across many parts of the region, not just the giants. Singapore and Taiwan also showing healthy growth around 4 or 5%.
Right. A very dynamic region overall. Okay, let's swing over to South America. What's happening there?
South America's market is smaller but growing. It was just under $280 million in 2021.
Okay.
Projected to reach over 457 million by 2033. The regional annual growth rate is around 4.2, maybe 4.3%.
And who's leading the charge there? Brazil.
Brazil is the regional leader, yeah. About 128 million in 2021, heading towards 218 million. And its growth rate is healthy, over 4.6% annually.
Okay. Any other standouts?
Argentina and Colombia are also showing good growth, both around 4.4 or 4.5% CAGR, so pretty consistent expansion across several key countries. Peru and Chile are growing steadily too, around 4%. It's just that the rest of South America category pulls the average down a bit, showing more modest growth, around 1%. But overall, the trajectory is definitely upwards.
Got it. Upward, if not quite as explosive as some other places. How about the Middle East?
Now, the Middle East is seeing some strong momentum. The overall regional CGR is impressive, about 5.5%.
5.5% for the region. That's high.
It is. The market was around 274 million in 2021, projected to grow to over 516 million by 2033.
And within the Middle East.
We see pretty consistent growth across countries like Egypt and Turkey, both growing at over 5% annually. Saudi Arabia stands out as a strong growth leader, though. It's set to nearly double its market size by 2033, with a CER approaching 5.9%.
Nearly 6% for Saudi Arabia. Wow. But I think I saw an even higher number there, the UAE.
You did indeed. Let's talk about the UAE. Revenue was just over 41 million in 2021.
Right.
But the projection, over 83 million by 2033. And that comes with an annual growth rate of just over 6%. 6.004% to be exact, highest in the Middle East.
Okay, another 6%. So what's going on in the UAE? Why is such a standout performance there?
That high growth in the UAE, similar to what we speculated about for Mexico or Luxembourg maybe, it's very telling. It suggests it's not just general popularity. It likely points towards significant government initiatives, maybe private investment in infrastructure, think new sports complexes, community centers, that kind of thing.
Actively promoting sports.
Exactly. Actively promoting sports and healthy living, and badminton seems to be really benefiting from that push. Qatar is also showing very strong growth, over 5.6% annually.
Very interesting dynamics there. Okay. We've saved perhaps the most surprising region for last. Africa.
Ah, yes, Africa. The numbers here are, well, quite something.
Lay it on me. Where does it stand now?
Currently, it's the smallest region by revenue, under $200 million in 2021, around $198 million.
Okay, smallest starting point.
But the projection, it's set to surge to over $567 million by 2033.
Wow, that's nearly triple.
Exactly. And here's the kicker, the regional annual growth rate. It's a staggering 8.265%.
8.265%. Are you serious?
And
That's huge.
it's the highest regional growth rate globally by a considerable margin.
So Africa is the fastest growing region for badminton in the world.
Absolutely phenomenal rate. It signals this massive untapped potential finally being realized as the sport gains real traction across the continent.
Incredible. And within Africa, who's leading this charge?
Leading the way is South Africa. Their annual growth rate is almost 9%, 8.94%.
Nearly 9%.
Yeah. That makes it one of the highest, if not the highest, country growth rates in all the data we've looked at today. South Africa's market is set to more than triple by 2033, from about 71 million to over 219 million.
That's just amazing growth. Is anyone else close?
Nigeria is also showing incredible momentum. They started with a slightly larger base than South Africa, over 91 million in 2021.
Okay.
And they're projected to reach almost $250 million by 2033, 244 million. That's driven by an annual growth rate of nearly 7.8%, also extremely strong.
Wow. So South Africa and Nigeria really powering this African surge. What does this mean, this huge collective growth in Africa? What does it signify for badminton globally?
I think it's incredibly significant. It points to several factors aligning. Maybe a growing youth demographic, increasing urbanization, more interest in sports for recreation, but also as a potential profession. And crucially, as infrastructure improves, more courts, better access to equipment, maybe coaching, we're seeing this almost exponential expansion of interest and participation. It's a really powerful indicator. It suggests the next big wave of badminton's global growth story could very well be driven by nations across Africa.
That's a fantastic insight. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, a ton of numbers, region by region. Let's try and connect the dots. For someone listening, trying to get that big picture view, what does this all boil down to?
Well, you put it all together. The main story, the overarching narrative, is definitely one of consistent global growth for badminton. That near 5% global CAGR is solid. But underneath that, there's this really fascinating geographical shift happening.
A shift in momentum.
Exactly. The traditional strongholds, especially in Asia-Pacific like China, they still drive the biggest slice of the revenue pie, no question. However, the really explosive growth, the highest rates of growth, are clearly coming from these emerging markets we've highlighted.
Like Mexico, Luxembourg, the UAE.
Precisely. And especially Africa, with South Africa and Nigeria posting those incredible CAGRs, it really underscores this dynamic shift.
And the why behind it. What are the sources saying drives this?
Primarily, it's attributed to, well, two main things. One, just the rising popularity of badminton itself in these emerging markets. More people are discovering it, playing it. And two, crucially, that's coupled with increasing investments in sports infrastructure.
Building the courts, the clubs.
Exactly. It's not just about selling more rackets and shuttlecocks. It's about building the places to play, fostering local clubs, making the sport accessible to potentially millions who are new to it. So it's this blend, this combination of grassroots enthusiasm meeting more strategic investment. And that's what's expected to keep this momentum going strong over the next decade.
That makes a lot of sense. It paints a really clear picture. And that really wraps up our deep dive into the global badminton market. We've gone from those big global numbers down to some really surprising country specifics. Hopefully it gives you a much clearer, concise understanding of the trends in this surprisingly booming sport.
Yeah, hopefully that knowledge is useful, maybe sparks some more curiosity. No, it does raise an interesting final thought, doesn't it?
Oh, go on.
Well, considering those significant investments in sports infrastructure that keep coming up, especially in emerging markets, what might the broader economic impacts or even social impacts of this badminton growth be over the next, say, 10 years?
Beyond just the market value itself.
Right. How does a sport like badminton, maybe seen as niche in some of these places until recently, potentially become a more significant cultural force? Or even an economic one, affecting local economies, maybe even things like public health initiatives?
That's a great question to ponder. How a growing sport ripples outwards. Definitely something for you, our listeners, to think about.